Onda Magazine presenta.
Okay, on the Houston, we are honored to be joined by Anise Parker, a Democratic candidate in the race for Harris County Judge in the upcoming runoff elections in May. And as I'm sure you know her, she was one of our former mayors in Houston, and she's also a champion for equal rights. How are you doing? It's an honor to have you here.
I'm doing great. It's so wonderful to be back with Kay on a publication that has been part of my political life, but also the community life in Houston that I've been involved with for a very long time.
Thank you so much. It's an honor, and we're so happy to talk to you about your campaign points. And I know you've led Houston through so many challenges, right? And we want to know, how will that experience guide you and into that role as Harris County Judge, especially with today's crises with the economic challenges, climate, and health.
Oh, there are more crises than that, unfortunately, including the current immigration crisis that we
Yes.
have in this country. But uh, being mayor of Houston, there are 2.3 million people. County judge, there are 5 million people. They're very similar positions. They're not the same because the mayor has more direct authority over the workforce in the city. The county judge has to work through the commissioners and with independent elected officials like Sheriff Gonzalez and the tax assessor and the county clerk and so forth. But the jobs, emergency management, public health, public safety, public infrastructure, what happens in a natural disaster, they're the same job. And there's no one else who could run that has as much experience in local government at 18 years at the city level in local government. I want to bring those skills to Harris County. And I think at this moment, with so much happening, having somebody who's been there and done that and gone through it and is ready to be productive from the first day is very important.
Thank you. What message do you have for those people who supported you as Houston mayor, and what do you want those who didn't to understand about your future goals?
I had a lot of support as Houston mayor, and 3 times the citizens elected me as mayor. And I'm the same person. I have been out of office for 10 years, but my passions for community are the same. My work ethic is the same. The one thing that even the people who disagreed with me on policy had to uh, accept is that I was visible and present. I'm not afraid to go into any community of Houston and have hard conversations. The same is true of Harris County, and that in a crisis, I know what to do and you know what to expect.
Thank you. What would you like to implement in your first 30 days and also in your first 6 months?
This is a very large county. It's the third largest county in the United States, biggest in Texas. Harris County has more population than 26 American states. So is a large it's a large territory in a large area. So two things I want to do in the first 30 days. One, I want to convene uh, town hall meetings in uh, the multiple areas of the county that haven't been visited in the past, to just have conversations. This is what I can do. This is what I can't do. What are your needs? You tell me, and to work with the 4 county commissioners to make sure that those are productive meetings. The other thing I want to do is really I want to convene advisory committees from the various uh, you know, ethnic and immigrant communities of Houston, the Spanish speaking community, that we have a large African population, we have a large South Asian populations. I want to convene advisory groups and not to meet with my staff, but to meet with me. And again, to hear directly from the communities. This is what we need from the county. This is what we want from the county. But there's a third thing I want to do as well, and that is there's not enough transparency in the way Harris County works. And I'm going to spend a lot of time in those first 30 days rolling up my sleeves and trying to figure out, what are the critical issues in the hospital district? What are the critical issues in the jail? What are the critical issues in flood management that are slowing the progress down for our citizens. So I don't have answers that I can't say this is going to happen in the first 30 days. What I can say is these are the three things I'm going to do to make sure that I know all of the issues and problems once I'm in the office.
Thank you. And I heard that you talked about the immigrant communities there. And I know some immigrant communities may have some barriers when interacting with local governments and the county government. What steps would you take to improve language access and that those communities are heard?
When I was mayor of Houston, we created the Office of New Houstonians or New Americans, and we had we put all of the critical documents of the city of Houston into multiple languages. Things have changed in the last, that's 16 years ago. And now with AI and new technologies, it's much easier to have language access, but you still have to have the will and you have to have the people involved to, make sure that those connections are made. So that there will definitely be someone in my office as county judge who works with the other elected officials in Harris County to make sure that we are communicating with all of the residents of this area in a language that they can understand. But the other thing that we have to do working with the immigrant community is work to there's because of the crackdown at the federal level, there are a lot of people who are afraid. They're afraid of deportation. They're afraid of being stopped. I know that Sheriff Gonzalez, he must follow the law, but he also wants everyone to be able to engage with law enforcement, if they're in danger, if they need it. I want to work with the mayor of Houston and the mayor. There are 33 other cities. There's 34 cities in Harris County. Work with the mayors of the various cities here to make sure that we all understand what the what the law makes us do, but where we have discretion and where we can say, look, we're not. Our job is not to enforce federal immigration laws. Our job is to keep people safe here, and we want to make sure that no one is afraid to contact police because of their immigration status.
Yes, and talking about public safety, I know that's a big point in your campaign as well. How would
Well, it's a big point. And it is one of the fundamental jobs of any local government is public safety. Now, unlike as mayor, where the mayor of the city of Houston hires and fires the police chief, we have independently elected uh, the sheriff, we have constables, and uh, they make the day-to-day decisions, but we all have to work together, and we all understand that anything that causes people to be afraid to come forward to work with the police is a problem. And so I hope to be able to sit down with, I know I can work with the sheriff, who's a supporter of my campaign, and I've known for a very long time. I look forward to getting to know the constables better to try to figure out how we can, work on crime in all aspects. Crime is about, there's the violent criminals, but there's also your car is burglarized. I can't tell you how many times my garage has been broken into. I live in a nice neighborhood, but still, this is something that it's infuriating and frustrating. But there are also people who deal with this. I'm not afraid to call the police when something happens, but there are people who are victimized and then victimized again when they're afraid to come forward. We have to address that, and this fear that's being engendered by federal actions in terms of immigration enforcement are having a ripple effect that we have to do whatever we can to stop.
What is your approach when it comes to people who have mental health needs and those people who are worried that those people need to get that care, that mental health care, for over incarceration?
So, unfortunately, every county jail in the state of Texas is the largest provider of mental health services in those counties. So, Harris County Jail, largest provider of mental health services in Harris County. And this is, I know, a great concern for the sheriff, but it also means that the people in the jail, both those who are there because they have a mental health issue that caused them to do something they shouldn't have done, and the people who are in jail because they're just bad guys. The population is mixed in together, and it causes problems for both sides. It makes it less safe all the way around. I know that the sheriff is interested, and we've already talked about this, in seeing we need to improve the jail. There's some physical things about the jail that need to be fixed, but we don't need a bigger jail. What we need is a better jail, and then a separate facility where we can have a therapeutic setting, still a lockdown setting, but a therapeutic setting for people who are there because they have schizophrenia or a bipolar disorder or something that caused them to act out and they end up in jail. They need to be separated from the general population. And that's not a short-term solution, but I think it's something that's coming. Now, one of the things that the former county judge and Emmett did, and we actually worked on it together when I was mayor, is a joint processing facility, people coming into the jail. And if we can identify people with mental health issues there before they actually enter the population. I mean, sometimes people commit acts that they have to go into the general population, but there is an opportunity at the front end to do some of that triage. And I certainly want to look at that and see if it's working the way it is intended.
Thank you. And let's talk about affordability. I know that's a concern for a lot of working families. What steps would you take to make sure that families can keep up with rising costs?
The economy and affordability, I think, is the number one issue facing this region. And you used to hear stories all the time about how this was the most affordable big urban area in America. And I still think that's true, but we're not far ahead of the pack the way we used to be. And the biggest challenge is middle class, working class housing. We have a lot of high end market rate housing going up, and we've been working really hard to do affordable housing for ultra low income folks. But just the people who get up every day and go to work uh, uh, you cannot buy a house on a minimum wage job. You can barely afford an apartment on a minimum wage job. So one of the things the county has been doing is raising the rate of pay for county contracts, working in county government. The city government has done the same thing, but we have to figure out how we can incentivize the building of both multifamily and single family housing, because if young people who are starting their business careers, their career at work, if they can't live here, if they can't afford a place to stay, they're going to move away, and that hollows out the economy over time. Now, the other thing that we have to really watch out for too, and I talk about this all the time, is flooding and flood management. If you've bought a home, it is the most expensive thing you will ever own. You've sunk your life savings into it. You've committed to a mortgage for the next 30 years, and then a flood comes and destroys what you've put into that home. We are way behind in terms of emergency management and flood mitigation investments. We have the money, we have the list of projects. I don't know what the problem is, but I certainly look forward to getting in there and lighting a fire under somebody to make sure that these projects move faster.
Thank you for talking about that, because a lot of people, that's one of their concerns, flood prevention. And I know climate change and resiliency is another important part of your campaign.
Well, and the storms are getting worse. The hurricanes are getting worse, but the rainfall here is changing. We have more. We're the subtropics. We have intense rain, but what we're getting more and more is what's called microbursts, where just very small area and really intense rain, and it's impossible to predict, and it's very challenging to prevent flooding in those circumstances. And we're going to get more and more and more of that. And again, and the types of hurricanes and storms coming out of the Gulf is changing. I can't stop the next Harvey from flooding the region, because Harvey was hopefully a unique event. But we ought to be able to anticipate the fact that we're going to get more rain with storms. We have to get ahead of it. And where we built our city and how flat we are, and the little rivers that we call bayous that run through this region, it's always going to be a challenge to do flood mitigation. but we can do more. We can do better. And again, the voters gave Harris County approval at $2.5 billion of bond projects, but they're not moving fast enough. We have to keep up with these, climate change and the weather challenges.
What do you want people in vulnerable neighborhoods to understand about this challenge?
Well, we have a responsibility to do our best to prevent water from getting into your home. But people who move into this region all need to understand too that the streets are part of the flood management system. When we have a heavy rainstorm and water starts to fill up in the streets, pull over, park your car, be patient. It's not it's not a design flaw. That is what's supposed to happen because we're so flat, because we have such intense rainfall, and because we're close to the coast. So when the tide comes in, the water can't leave. We have to have a place for the water to go, and the street grid in Houston and the surrounding smaller cities is designed to capture water. Now, it also may capture your car. That's the problem. And a lot of people who move here from other places, they just, oh, I'm just going to drive through, and they don't realize how deep that water is. And a lot of people don't know why we have flood gauges and underpasses. And what's that ruler, that yellow ruler over there on the side of the road? That tells you how many feet of water is in the in that underpass. We ought to tell people that. I don't know how we could do a better job, but we have a responsibility from the government side to do the projects and do the work, the big projects. But citizens have a responsibility to be aware of the weather conditions. Again, when hurricane season starts this summer, citizens have the responsibility to have non-perishable food, to have batteries, to have gas in the tank, but also not to drive into danger zones, not to go on the road when they see the water begin to come up. It won't be there very long. Give it, you might have to sit on the side of the road for an hour, but it's better than having your car towed and you're totaled because it went underwater. We all have responsibilities. It's about communication and knowing what's going on around us.
Thank you. And I know healthcare is also another concern for a lot of people. How would you work to make county health services inclusive and accessible in addition for everyone?
The job of any county in Texas, but particularly in Harris County, public safety, public health, public infrastructure, and emergency management. Public safety, it's the sheriff and the constables and the jail. Emergency management, we've talked about that. Public infrastructure, it's the roads and the bridges and the parks and the libraries. Public health is critical. Harris County Hospital Districts, what it used to be called, the Harris Center, used to be called MHMRA, is the indigent health care for the region. So if you don't have health insurance, if you can't afford to see a doctor on your own, Harris County, Harris Health is where you go. It's Bentop Hospital. It's LBJ Hospital. It is the place of last resort for anybody. We will take care of you if you have nowhere else to go. We'll take care of you if you have insurance too, and we like people with insurance, but we will take care of you. And it's a very expensive proposition, but because of changes at the federal level, the so-called Republican Big Beautiful Bill, people were dropped off of Medicaid and Medicare. People who had subsidies under the Affordable Care Act have lost their subsidies. They're ending up in the hospital district, but also people who, for whatever reason, aren't part of the U.S. system. Again, people who are undocumented, people who, if you have been injured in a horrific crash, and you need someplace to go, you're going to end up at the hospital district because we will take care of you because that is our job. And we need to make sure that we continue to make the investments to expand the system.
Talking about investments, I know education and youth is also a thing that you support a lot, and that the families are concerned about because they want to see their kids and their families go on to big opportunities. What are you going to do to support?
Well, we do have uh, independent school districts in Texas. And so would not have direct authority over schools. I didn't have it when I was mayor. I won't have it as county judge. But schools and the quality of education are critical to the economic vitality of this region. So I expect to meet regularly, just as I did when I was mayor. And I had actually a full-time person on staff as mayor who was my liaison to the school districts. There are multiple school districts here. My kids, and I have grandkids that are in the school districts. They have, I want to make sure first that the schools are safe, that the areas around the schools are safe, that they have sidewalks, that the local law enforcement and the ISD law enforcement communicates well, that we work together to make sure that kids aren't truant, that's all of us as a community. So even though I don't have the direct authority as county judge, I have the moral obligation to make sure that the schools serve everybody to the best they can.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for all the information that you brought. And I want to ask you if you want to close with a message to our Onda magazine audience.
It was my greatest honor to represent the citizens of the city of Houston for 18 years as a council member, as controller, as mayor. I want the opportunity to continue to serve everyone in this region as the county judge in Harris County. County judge, not a lawyer, not a judge in a courtroom, but county executive, the person who makes sure that the county functions. We all need the services. We can come together to make this happen. I have always had great support from Onda and those who support Onda magazine. I look forward to working with this publication, but also with all of you to make this region thrive. We can do it together.
Thank you so much, Anise Parker. She is the Democratic candidate in the race for Harris County Judge in this upcoming elections in May. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's been a pleasure. Bye and hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
¿Qué Onda Magazine presentó